Welcome, and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Matthews Podcast, a podcast highlighting commercial real estate news, topics, and trends from top professionals in the industry. I'm your host, Andrew Gross, and today's episode, we're going to dive into the stories shaping the commercial real estate landscape in Dallas-Fort Worth. I'm honored and excited to be joined by Jeremy Mercer, CEO of Matador Realty Investments, with more than 2 decades of experience spanning across manufacturing, entrepreneurship, and real estate. Jeremy brings a unique perspective to the commercial real estate landscape. After leading his family's steel business, he transitioned into private equity and founded Matador Realty Investments, a firm focusing on acquiring and repositioning Class B and C industrial assets across Texas and Oklahoma. Jeremy, welcome to the podcast. Excited to dive in and appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
I know you're normally on the other side of the equation here, so
I am. I do both every now and then, though, so it's fun. It's fun to be on the other end. So
there you go. Well, appreciate you coming on here, and obviously a goal of mine is to be able to talk about and highlight players, movers, shakers, and here in Dallas, and we're in a great market, a beautiful market, obviously. And so was excited to get you on the podcast here and be able to talk about your story a little bit, about what your thoughts are on the marketplace and kind of what you do and your background here. So real quick, let's just start at the beginning.
Sure.
It's easy. You're from Dallas. You're from the DFW area. Where are you from exactly?
I'm from Irving. So grew up in South Irving, just south of 183 there. Irving High, Tiger grad. So grew up there my whole life. And ended up going to college at Texas Tech out in Lubbock, and had a good little run out there for 4 years, and then
Wreckham, right?
Yeah, Wreckham. That's it. There you go. So we're spending as much money as we can right now in the NIL and trying to make a name for ourselves. So that's been fun to watch for them. And but yeah, no, grew up in Irving. Went out there. I'd gone out there for football, and it wasn't. I had no clue where Lubbock was. Like, I'd never really been that much outside the Metroplex, except for like maybe a family vacation and stuff like that. And but definitely not West Texas. And I had some family that lived in Pampa, but I ended up out there. And then I always wanted to be a sports agent, and then and so I met with the sports agent when I was a senior in high school. And I was like, I want to be an agent. And I think it's like when Jerry Maguire was coming out and all this stuff. So it was like, it was something I wanted to do. And then it's funny, man. I just remember one day I was sitting in the locker room and I was like, I don't think I want to be a sports agent anymore. But that guy told me to get a degree in finance. And so that's what I got, my degree in finance, the real estate emphasis. After a couple of years of football, I kind of had an ongoing injury that finally just I succumbed to. When that was over, music's always been a big part of my life. And, so I was like, man, I'm going to get back full into music, like just all day, every day. It's all I want to do. And, ended up started playing in some bands with some guys, and graduated, moved back, got a house in Euless with some buddies of mine. It was like 5th year of college in there, and landlord loved us. It was great because we paid our rent on time, but the neighbors absolutely hated us. And after about a year there, we were like, and I'd moved back, and my dad had owned a steel company, and it was just him there working with one other employee. And, my dad would take the order and go out and unload the truck, and, it was all these things. And, so I was working there with him, and my buddies were like, hey, we got to move out of Euless, and we need to get to one of my friends was like, hey man, I want to move to Deep Ellum. And I was like, well, that's cool. I just need to find a place to put my gear, my music gear. Like, I can't live in an apartment and turn all these amps on that I have. And so I got the Dallas Observer out, and I was looking in it, and this place said rehearsal rooms. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So I drive down to this industrial building just down here on Commonwealth, and on a Sunday morning, to meet this guy. And he's like, I got like 55 rooms in here, and you can just lease the room and store your stuff here, and it's month to month. So it's like a storage unit for bands.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is this is awesome. And so leased a room there, got my apartment in Deep Ellum. And, my brother had started, he got into industrial real estate. He started off at Henry S. Miller for a year and then went to Robert Lynn, which is now NAI Robert Lynn.
Mhm.
And, at the time we were like, man, we got to start buying real estate. Like, our whole family, we'd always had like, it seemed like every one of our aunts was a real estate agent or something.
Yeah.
Like, so we started looking at trying to buy houses. So I was, that year I was chasing, I was working at my dad's steel company, jamming at night, chasing pre-foreclosures on the weekend. And I think that was a big part of where I learned to cold call, because when you go knock on someone's door and they got 21 days till they're fixing to lose their home, like it's a pretty tense situation, right? And then I'm a 21, 22-year-old kid, and they're like, can this guy even pull this off?
Yeah.
And but that's what I was doing. I was just going door to door. There used to be a thing called the Roddy list, and we would grab that list and go chase these pre-foreclosures. So tried that. And then after about a year, the guy that owned the rehearsal studio came to me, and he was like, man, he wasn't a musician. He sold wine for a living, and he just sat there all night and smoked cigarettes and, collected rent. So he came to me and he said, man, you seem to know real estate and you know all these bands. Do you want to buy this place? And I was like,
Oh, wow.
hell yeah, I want to buy this place. So I was like, I'd gotten in a car wreck and I'd got an insurance settlement for like 30 grand. That's all the money I had. And my dad made me buy a bunch of Microsoft stock with it.
There you go.
And
good dad.
Yeah. Well, so I was like, well, I need $30,000 for a down payment for this business. And I took it out, and my dad was real pissed at me and told me I didn't know what I was doing. He literally told me that the other day, how I screwed that up. But he
always I told you so.
Right. And so anyways, I get this deal, and I was like, man, I got to get a bank loan. And I had a local bank here, and they took me all the way to the altar and told me they were going to do it, and then just left me high and dry. So I didn't know really what to do. And I got hooked up with another bank, and he was like, hey man, you can, if you can get the building involved, I can get the business wrapped up in it. So I got a hold of the building owner. I got my brother over there. My brother bought the building. I bought the business, and we cross collateralized the loans and got it closed. And so I left my dad's steel company, and my brother at this time had started buying all these buildings right here in the Stemmons corridor, Motor Street, which is now Medical District, and right here, Irving Boulevard and Brook Hollow and all this stuff. And so I started property managing it all. And so I'm, running the studio at night, managing tenants during the day and whatnot. And so that was kind of my lifestyle for a while. So at the most of the bars in Deep Ellum, like most people owed me rent in there. So yeah, I had 55 bands going on in there.
Wow.
And so that was, I guess, I don't know, 2008, 2004 to 2010-ish. And so we, what do we do?
So when did you make the transition from obviously operating a business, property manager side, to just saying, hey, I'm gonna put all my eggs in the real estate basket? Because obviously you've built something pretty significant at this point. So where was there like a moment in time where you're like, hey, I probably should flip the switch and do this thing full time?
Yeah. So here's kind of what happened. I had in that time frame, my dad was trying to sell his company, couldn't really sell it, really, I ended up I was like, hey, if you sell to me, owner finance, it'd be great, And so I bought it from him. He told me what he's going to charge me in rent, and I was like, I'm moving out. So I moved out, moved to Brook Hollow. My brother had a building in Brook Hollow, and at the same time they had Jeff and them and Mark Miller and those guys had bought another complex. They're like, hey, we got another 60,000 feet for you to manage. And I was like, dude, I'm done with property management. And I was like, but I'll lease 20,000 feet from you. So I leased another 20,000 feet and finished it out for rehearsal studios. And so then I had two. And so I kind of ran that so I'm running my dad's steel company that I bought, building that up, running these studios. And then one day my brother comes to me, he goes, "Hey man, he goes, you should broker." And so I'd taken all those properties that I had, and Robert Lynn started their property management division with those properties.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Man, you should really think about brokering." And I was like, I'd kind of at that point in life given up. Like I never wanted to be a broker because I was like, man, I want to be in a band.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to be tied to anything like that. I don't want to
Yeah.
make that kind of money because I know I won't give it up.
Uh-huh.
But at that time, I think my son had been born, so I'd kind of quit all my major bands that I was playing with and all that stuff, or we were trying to be serious. And so I was like, okay, well, I had set that company up, and it was running, and I was like, well, give me 3 months. Let me take 3 months off and like see if the company needs, like, if I wasn't there, like what happened, right?
Yeah.
And it seemed to run pretty well. I had some good employees there, and so October of 2010, I went to the brokerage side and started at Mercer Company. My brother had left Robert Lynn and started Mercer Company, and then away we go. And so my first day at work, I walk up to the door and there's a note and it says, "Go make cold calls. We went goose hunting." So him and Ryan Boozer had gone goose hunting in Canada.
Oh yeah.
And so I just started going walking around the design district, just walking in buildings, and
I've learned a lot about this local Dallas-based industrial, like the culture around it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And coming from California into Texas and work on a national product type when I first got started.
Yeah.
In the net lease world, traditionally, cold calling was picking up the phone and making calls.
Right.
And I remember the first time that I spoke with an industrial broker about making cold calls. Like, yeah, I'm making cold calls. Say I'm going to this market, Stemmons Corridor.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, oh, he means he's going and actually door knocking, like getting in front of you. That is their version of cold calling. And I thought it was a terminology shift where I was like, wow, that is it's a completely different version of what cold calling is, and it's such an important factor that played into so much success that's here. So I'm curious. Obviously, you had the cold calling experience, your version of cold calling experience, as far as the foreclosure side of things. How did that amplify your brokerage career? Was it something that you felt like you were better set up than most people who make that transition?
I think that was a big part of it. I think the other part of it was when I walked into an industrial user space, I was like, hey man, I've made payroll before and I've moved an industrial facility that I own, the company. So I know what I'm fixing to ask you to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So I think that gave me a sense to be able to relate to them, other than some kid coming in that, hey, real estate, up, thumbs down,
you selling, you not selling?
Yeah.
It's like, you leasing? Yeah, exactly.
So I felt like I could have a different conversation with somebody. And I felt that was really kind of my unique. But a lot of it was being able to, a lot of people don't like cold calling, and it's, I'm sure y'all see this, right? Some guy's like, yeah, I want to do this. And he gets into like the first week and he's like, what did I just sign up for?
Yeah.
And it's weird because like, I think it's very interesting how you guys like walking in here was so impressive. It's like, this is like a sea of dudes just digging up leads right now, and that's awesome to me. But
yeah,
I suck on the phone. Like, I'm like, can I just come over to your office? Like, because that's the only really way I know how to operate, So I think it's very, it's the product type, right? It's the product type you work on, right? For you, it was net lease retail. So it's, banging dials all day long. If this is, my client was always a owner user, local decision maker making local decisions, and someone that has a metal fabrication company, a screen printer or something like that. And they need to go buy a building for their business or need to go lease some space for their distribution company and stuff like that. So it was very, very relationship driven. You had to kind of really just constantly show up and be that expert for these people, because sometimes these people, they make one deal in 10 to 20 years, right? It's and so you got to be there consistently to to be ready when that one happens. But it's,
Yeah. Otherwise, the Matthews guy is going to be calling them or knocking down their door. I tell you what.
Right. But,
guy or gal.
And that works too, though, right? Because if you show up on real estate day, it could be just one cold call and you showed up that day, and that happens too, right? There's guys that I've called on. I have a guy I called on for 4 years straight in a row. Every month I went to his office, dropped my card off, never could see him, called him on the phone. One time he finally answered the phone, laughed at me, hung up on me. And then one day out of the blue, he calls me, he goes, "Hey, I need a 50,000 foot building." Here we go.
Yeah.
Sold him a 50,000 foot building. I still can't get the guy to call me back today. Like, he still won't see
he's
me.
A client.
He's a client. He won't even take my calls.
Yeah.
So, but no, it was just a lot of relationship building, which, a lot of that transitioned into the Matador side of things because a lot of my LPs are my brokerage clients.
Yeah.
They owned an operating company, did very well there, and, had a great experience buying an industrial building with me or, me representing them on it. And they're like, "Hey, I want to own more buildings." And, I'm like, "Well, let's go buy some buildings."
Yeah. So I want to step one step back. You first got into brokerage. Obviously, you had the natural side of the business, just getting out, get in front of people, go meet people, build relationships. That came naturally to you. Mm-hmm. I know in learning a lot about that industrial culture here, a lot of the different practices, the specialization, a lot of that stems from probably the Robert Lynn NAI days and a lot of I've listened and heard a lot from different brokers who've been here for a long time in the industrial space. I'm curious, how was that training for you? Were there things that you learned when you first got in the business? In the brokerage side of things, you're like, wow, it's crazy how this works compared to other industries that I've been in before. It's pretty unique, this training or this style that has been adapted really throughout the DFW at this point.
Yeah, no, every company's doing it now. It's the Robert Lynn model. It's, Stream does it, their industrial team does it, right? It's a Mercer company does it. It was, for me, I never worked anywhere. I've never really worked for anyone. Yeah. And so I was always just left to my own devices to kind of figure things out. So, but then when I came in and my brother's like, "Okay, here's what you do. You make 50 cold calls a week. You make 10 TIP calls a week. Then you drive your availables every week. And you do these things." My brother's very regimented.
Yeah.
Like it was always, the joke was like, you walk in Mark Miller's office and all this stuff going on. You walk in my brother's, Mark Miller's one of the best brokers in the world, right? And like you walk in my brother's office, it was like, here's like all these executed tenant rep agreements, right? And I don't think Mark Miller uses a tenant rep agreement, right? He's just, and so it's interesting how you see the styles of different brokers, right? That are both successful. And so, but my brother was always very, that was kind of part of it too. My brother played football in college. And so like we would, he was always like he drove a lot of my discipline, which came from our dad. And so, but I'm kind of more of a free spirit in those kind of things. And so, but I followed the plan. Like I was like, "Hey man, like you made a ton of money. So like, just tell me what to do." Like, and so, I followed it. But it's kind of nice. I tend to work well when in a way I'm trying to like, I don't know if it's please somebody or like, like I always like, I feel really good when I'm representing somebody on a brokerage deal. Cause I'm like, man, I want to get this done right. It's almost more like if I'm doing my own deal, it's probably gonna be a little sloppier than if I'm doing someone else's, but I think just the system was, hey, do this system for 5 years. And if you do, then you can start making less cold calls and, and you've built a business, so.
I mean, those are some things that I love about brokerage is that you may be so different in terms of your free spiritedness versus maybe your brother being a little bit more regimented in terms of some of those things. But I bet there's some clients out there that would only work with you in that maybe your brother would never really connect at the same level and vice versa.
Totally.
And that's the beauty of brokerage, right? Is that there's so many different types of people, relationships, personalities out there. And there's a lot of different types of people who can be really successful as long as obviously you put the work in and you put your head down and do the things that maybe a lot of people are uncomfortable doing.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. Some people just don't like other people.
Yeah.
Like, or, you know, I mean, like you just don't click with someone,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just, that's, you know, and, you know, you hate to think that about yourself. Like, someone didn't like me, like what? But like, I mean, that happens, right? And that's
Yeah.
why some other guy wins the relationship over you, you know?
Yeah.
And you're totally right. There's totally some people that are like, I can't work with your brother, you know? Okay. All right. Well, I'll do your deal, you know?
Yeah.
And um, but I think that's what, if you stick with it, you'll find those people that want to work with you, and you know, it becomes a successful career for people. So
It also comes down to the value you're adding, right? I mean,
Right.
at the end of the day, that's what we're doing here. I mean, that's probably one of my other favorite parts about being in brokerage. Something you mentioned is like, at the end of the day, I tell people this all the time. We're helping people. We are helping people achieve whatever their motivation of owning, leasing real estate is, and that's what we're here. We're helping people. When you have that kind of a mindset, and you're truly trying to help someone's best interests, what we're paid to do, it feels great. And then obviously when you get paid at the end, it makes it even better, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, something I like to, you know, I'm real big on, in something Jeff and I are both real big on, but like just reading things and like reading your documents that you send people and all this. I mean, like it's, you'd be shocked on the principal side. You'd be shocked at how many times we were just like,
did you read the lease?
did you read? I mean, I just got a 65,000 foot lease signed for a group I represented.
Mm-hmm.
The broker sent it to me and said, "Hey, can you get your client to sign this?" And I was like, "Well, it's signed by my client, but not yours. Would you like, or you want me to call your client?"
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, man, like this is not hard.
Yeah.
You know, but something I like to tell a lot of the younger guys like at Mercer Company and stuff is like, hey man, this person hired you. They hired you to probably handle, and you know, like in our case, these owner users, their net worth is in their building. Most of the time, their business isn't worth anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you look at the valuation of their real business, they made the right decision 20 years ago to buy their property.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have hired you to handle this multi-million-dollar transaction for them. Act accordingly.
Yeah.
Like this is their livelihood, man.
Yeah.
Like, and they're going to pay you very well to do so. So do a good job, you know, and provide value, right? Don't just blow them off as some other, you know, transaction on your little list, you know. I take pride in doing a really good job for people. So.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that we talk about all the time, is that I think that sometimes people will get, especially young brokers, they get lost in this mix of, I need to go hunt deals, I need to make things happen. It's like, no, at the end of the day, you really need to make sure that you are covering all of your clients' bases and make sure that you're doing the little things right. Because, I mean, look, it's high stakes, right? I mean, there's a lot of money at stake. And these are, most people, especially early in someone's career, most people they work with, this is the biggest investment of life. It's their retirement or the income that they rely on. And I think that sometimes young brokers get lost in the mix of just trying to do deals and trying to get transactions done. It's like, no, you need to take a step back. Like this is a high stakes game to be playing in. And we need to make sure that you're really specific about how you're approaching this and have that level of professionalism go along with it. So
yeah, no, it's very true. I mean, it's you know, it's kind of how you do anything, is how you do everything, right?
Yeah.
So no, that's a big thing to drive home with younger guys. That hey, look, like you got to do a good job on this stuff. Like you know, if you want to do it for 20 years.
So I know obviously you made the transition to brokerage side. Talk to me about when you made that transition to having such a heavy focus in kind of where the inception of Matador came from and being on the principal side. I know there's a lot of things that Matador does, but I want to hear about what that transition looked like. Maybe there's a moment in time where you're like, hey, this is something that I want to start doing. I guess talk me through that, the inception of Matador and the thought process, maybe some of the psychology that went into it.
Yeah. So in 2018, I had sold off. At the end of 2018, I sold my dad's steel company. I'd acquired another steel company, built it up, sold it, got out. I was brokering the whole time I was doing it too. It was miserable. And there was two instances that really just, you know, I don't know, about 2017, probably, I guess a bunch of private equity guys went to some conference and they made up all these words like urban infill, core, last mile distribution. And that was Brook Hollow, you know? So all these 14-foot clear buildings with 60-foot truck courts, you know, all became the hottest thing all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, every week, every day, Jeremy, we have $1 billion to buy last mile core and get in line, dude.
Yeah.
Like, get in line. So, but there was one guy that, he called on me and I blew him off a couple times, but then finally I ended up selling him a building, and that was Romy with Cantex. And, and, it's funny. They started Cantex in this building on Empire Central, where Mercer Company started their company, same building. It's this little flex 1-story building.
Yeah.
Don't leave your leave any valuables over the weekend, because the windows were busted out when we came in every Monday, just about.
Yeah.
And I would just go over there and eat my lunch every day, and we just started buying a bunch of buildings, man. I bought a bunch of buildings with Cantex, sold them a bunch of buildings, leased a bunch of buildings for them. But there was 2 real instances before when I knew there's about a 270,000 foot building in Brook Hollow that I got it agreed to at a really low number. A broker out of California was selling it. Didn't really know didn't know how to price it. The building next door had just sold for like $12 a foot higher, and I was like, I got to buy this thing. I got to find a way to buy this thing.
Yeah.
So I was trying to, while I was negotiating the contract, I was trying to get somebody to like say they would do it with me. It's like a $7 million deal, which was huge for us back then. And I would literally tell people that I was interested in talking to me about the deal. I was like, please meet me in downtown Dallas, and I'm going to drive you to this building. So I drive them all the way down to Ambassador Row, Mockingbird and Ambassador Row, to show them this building, show them the growth that's all happening with the expansion of the design district, all that stuff. I couldn't get anybody to do it. And I got the contract, and I needed $100,000 in earnest money. I didn't have it. So I lost the deal.
Oh, wow.
Entrada bought it for $31 a foot, flipped it in a year for $57 a foot. And I was just like, I called the day I lost $5 million. And I was like, that stung. And then I had a guy show up one time, and he's like, hey, I want to buy buildings down here. And I was like, okay, well, he goes, I want the bigger, the better. I was like, okay. So there was a company that had just purchased the Mary Kay manufacturing plant. And I knew the company because they were a steel fabricator. And the president of the company was actually a friend of mine, because they were like I'd say like a really friendly competitor to me.
Yeah.
Like, a lot bigger than me, but we did the same things, but he would always share information with me. And I just called him. I was like, hey man, you're not going to use that annex building, which is like 135,000 feet. And so I got that building tied up for this guy to buy, and at a great price. And then this guy throughout the whole process is like, if you don't get a tenant, I'm not closing. So dude, I went out, cold called my ass off, and actually Turner in our office, who was my partner at the time, he's like, dude, I think I got us a tenant. And so I got the lease. We signed the lease the day we closed and got it fully done. And then COVID hit, and he sold to those guys and made like $7 million. Wow. I was just like, I made a great commission.
Yeah.
But I asked him in the middle of it, I was like, I want to buy this building with you. And he's like, no, I just blew it off.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? Like, I know how to find deals. I need to just figure out how to find money.
Yeah.
These guys just have money. They don't really know how to find deals.
And the value's in the deals. It's 100%.
So,
you're the one actually digging out these opportunities.
So we had always bought buildings along the way. Jeff and I bought our first building when I was, 23, 24. And, he bought a building. I bought it with him. And so but it was always situational. It was like a client of ours would pass on a building. And it was like, man, that's a good deal. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to do it. Okay, well, we'll just go buy it. You know?
What was that first deal you bought? Was there any kind of nerves that crept its way in there, or was it pretty much a slam dunk deal?
If my brother was doing it, I was doing it. Hey, here's. But I didn't have any money, so I went to Wells Fargo and I got a $3,000 personal line of credit, and I put $3,000.
There you go. There you go.
And this is pretty fun. This building's pretty funny because we owned it for like 15 years. I managed it, made a management fee on it, got distributions off of it, and when we sold it, I got $40,000.
Oh, there you go.
So
that's a good return on your in your investment. For sure.
So we sold it to Adam Curran, who was in our office at the time because he was in a 1031. And then 5 years later, my brother bought it back from him. And then 2 years ago, my brother sold it to Keenan in our office because he had a 1031, which my brother was in his 1031. So my brother still owns this thing. He took 5 years off from owning it and now owns it again. So it's kind of funny, but So I was just like, man, I can put a platform together
Mhm.
and I can start buying buildings and I can figure this out. And Cantex had put a building under contract up in Little Elm.
Mhm.
And Romy calls me and goes, hey, man, I need you to list this for me. And I go, what are you doing buying this? It was like a little $400,000 deal or something.
Yeah.
And he was like, I go, you're kind of growing up past this stuff. Like this is, you need to go to bigger deal sizes. And he goes, I know, but I think it's a really good deal. And I go, well, then mark it up $100,000 and give it to me. And so I just bought it off of him.
Oh, there you go.
So this is the first deal I ever raised. So I was like, I got to go raise $250,000. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. Like, so I went out and raised it and bought it, and we still own it. And actually we own the note on it now, and we finance it to the new owner. So that was kind of the start. So I bought that building. And then
was that a nerve-wracking deal the second he was like, when he said yes, were you like, hold on a second, I actually got to go execute now?
Yeah, but I was ready I was like, I want to do this. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, God, can I get someone to give me $250,000?
Yeah.
And when I went and talked to all the people that have trusted me for all these years, they're like, yeah, when you want like $100,000 or how much do you, I was like, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Like, that's exactly what I need.
And so, so I bought that, closed it. And then, we had bought I ended up buying a Caliber Collision, kind of, back to your net lease roots.
Yeah.
But there was a Caliber Collision that the broker told me was available in Salina, Texas. And I was like, it's Salina. I want to buy this one.
Yeah.
And I live in Prosper, so is home base. So Prosper Mafia raised it. And I just liked it because it was on Preston Road. And I was like, oh, this is gold mine. Like I'll just low yield, but who cares? And own this thing forever. So bought that, and I was like, man, I think I can put a platform together. Like that was a $5 million deal. So I was like, okay, I just pulled off a $5 million deal. Like, okay, can I go do this? And me and my brother, we started talking about, do we make like this division of Mercer company and you can run it and we'll do all these acquisitions. And he was like, man, you want to have an investment committee and like you want to buy this deal and some of the other dudes here poo-poo it. And I was like, no, I ain't got no interest in that. He goes, just go buildings. So I was like, cool. We were eating lunch at the Virgin right over here. So we went back to the office and I took my dress shoes, I tied them up and I threw them on Turner's desk. I was like, I quit. Good luck. and so that was it, man. I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy buildings. And the beginning, the name of my company was Capital Equity Capital as a joke. It was like, you hear all these companies are called Capital.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Capital Equity Properties Trust. It's like, yeah.
And so it was always funny when the bank would call because they're like, I'm calling about the Capital Equity Capital account.
Yeah.
Which one? So my wife I was like, well, we got to get a name. And she was like, she looked it up. She's like, well, it was Matador Capital at the time. She's like, Matador Capital's, the LLC is available. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And for those who don't know, Matador is the original mascot for Texas Tech.
Okay.
In 1927, they changed the mascot to the Red Raider. And so in Texas Tech circles, Matador's very, like our school song is called the Matador song.
All right.
And so it's very recognizable thing. And so I was like, okay, well, I got to put a real name behind this because Capital Equity Capital is not scalable.
Yeah.
And so that was it, man. So we just started making the company at that point and, started in a co-working space.
Mm-hmm.
And so
in the thought process around Matador, do you have a certain ethos that hey, this is our core? I know obviously you're here in Texas, Oklahoma, you're in OKC, some of the other markets. I'm sure you've looked other places as well. What's kind of the thought process?
We like the I-35 corridor.
Mm-hmm.
So if you drive up, and really, we don't really play in Oklahoma too much anymore. We have some buildings up there still, and Jeff and them just opened an office up there, and they're doing really well up there. But we're really, really focused on the I-35 corridor, and it just, man, I don't know. If you drive from Dallas to San Antonio, like that whole piece is just filling in.
Yeah.
So we want to own assets in those areas, and it's close enough where like I can jump in the truck and be there in 3 to 4 hours if I need to go see something. And so that was kind of the thesis. Like I'm gonna stay on I-35. I'm not gonna go to Houston. And that's just it's worked.
It's a good thesis.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when I first moved out to Dallas, I wanted to start focusing more on Dallas-based products and be more localized. And I dug up my first deal in Prosper.
Yeah.
And I was like, I gotta understand this growth pattern. I gotta understand what's happening out here. I was blown away by all the growth up and down the corridor, and really some of the stuff happening in DFW. And I kind of realized, like, you know what? At some point, Dallas-Fort Worth is going to connect to Waco. It's going to connect to all the way up to Oklahoma. Like at some point it will get there, and markets like Salina and Prosper. And I mean, anywhere that's in that line of growth, it's pretty impressive to see. And so I think it's probably a pretty safe bet anywhere on the corridor, I'd say.
I think any of those markets, it's tough because they don't really want an industrial up there. But like I'll tell you, like a real strip I really love is like from Buda to San Antonio, the San Marcos, New Braunfels strip of I-35. Like I'll buy everything down there. Like it's I think
I sold a Caliber Collision over there in New Braunfels. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
So but yeah, that's kind of our thesis on our acquisition side.
Yeah.
So
I am curious. Obviously, you have the musician side of things, you have the brokerage side of things, Matador on the ownership, the principal side of things, and you've created a significant presence in the social media world as well, on podcasts, LinkedIn. I mean, a lot of those aspects as well. I'm curious, what was kind of the impetus for going and starting a podcast, and how has that been to kind of get into that commercial real estate limelight, I guess you can say?
It was I kind of signed up for this group. It was called Apex, and this guy ran it. He's a big social media guy. And I was like, it was kind of during COVID. I was like, man, I gotta learn like something else, because you can't, like, being an in-person sales guy. Yeah. Like the gatekeeper now had a real reason to not let you in. Oh, COVID, get out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it wasn't, you couldn't call, phone calling. Again, I can't phone call. Like I make 10 phone calls. I'm like, I'm done with this, So I was like, man, I got to find a different way to differentiate myself. Right.
For sure.
So I got to, social media was, I would say, very first or second inning for commercial real estate at that time. And commercial real estate's very slow to change. Right. Like it's, and I had a buddy too that, so I'd learned a lot in that Apex thing about social media, and I was like, okay, this kind of makes some sense. And I had a buddy who runs a digital marketing company specializing in the oil field and all oil based companies. And he had started. He's like, dude, you need to start a podcast. Like, he goes, we're still in the early innings of this stuff, and you can really get some traction with it. And I was like, okay, I think I can do that. And I always just had this idea. I was like, well, I think it'd be cool to like interview all the street brokers and talk about that aspect of commercial real estate. And so we were looking, we were in the, we started off at the Star in the Formation co-working space. And then we were looking at places where you could go rent somewhere and do a podcast and all that. I was like, what's the cost? Ran the cost. And I was just being cheap. I was like, we really needed an office. We were like 5 or 6 people at that point. I was like, we need an office, but like, I don't want to spend the money on it. Yeah. And then I did the math on having to rent this podcast studio right all the time. And then like, people will cancel on you or something. And you rented this, it could be all these gyrations. Yeah. And so, I just did the math on getting an office versus that. And I was like, well, it's cheaper to get an office and buy all the equipment and just have it in house. And so I was like, okay, well, let's go get an office. So we went and found a 1,200-foot sublease and set up in there. And then I was like, we can sit up and do reels whenever we want to or whatever and all that stuff. But, I wanted to get ahead of, I thought, the thing about social media and podcasting and all that stuff is the omnipresence of it. Right. So for me too, it's deal flow. Yeah. Right. I had a broker call me one day and he goes, hey man, I haven't talked to you in a couple of months, but I feel like I talk to you every day. Because
for sure.
Because the guys that are going to bring me deals are listening to all their peers that I'm interviewing. Yeah. Right. And they're all like, oh man, I want to hear this guy's story. Oh, I want to hear this guy's story. I know that guy, and so
how has being involved in social media amplified your business professionally? I mean, has that been something that has been a catalyst for increasing, I'm sure, deal flow? I'm sure you have brokers messaging you saying, hey, I got a deal for you. Hey, I heard this story. How has that been for increasing your deal flow? And
it's not something I can like point to and say this, this came from there, but I mean, it's like today I had a Zoom this morning with a family office out of Europe that was like, hey, we love your podcast and, all your, we looked at your assets, kind of stuff we want to own. Like we want to talk to you about, working with you. So, I mean, like there's just, I don't know if anything comes of that, but like, that's how they found me, you know? And so, it's a way to get reach where, but yeah, I mean, we've definitely had, we always announce what our vacancies are, right? So that everyone knows, hey, we got to, or like if we're under
on the podcast.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, we just bought a building off of Jeff Miller and those guys down in San Antonio, they sold us a building and him and Kelleher and they, leading up to closing, we're like, hey, we got a building with these specs, And so we're trying to help our brokers that are repping us, lease our building, right? Because that's all that all matters, right? These vacant buildings mean nothing if there's no tenant in it. Like it's all a bunch of it's a liability at that point. So, but I think that just the presence of those things, and it's really fun because like during football season, everybody gets really, because we're making like 15 football bets, and everybody's like, y'all killed it this week, y'all sucked this week, like but like real estate brokers, a lot of them are gambling degenerates.
There's probably a few out here, I'd imagine.
So, it's just things like that, man. It's just, it gives you the ability to be in front of people where you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And then it's out there forever, right? Like, you can go back and listen to an episode from, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And, I want to hear Chase Miller get interviewed. Okay. It's 2 years ago, you know, and still out there. So,
I mean, you've had the chance to interview there's been a lot of production sitting on the other side of you, right?
Yeah.
A lot of information, a lot of great things from the Confessions of a Street Broker podcast.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot of interesting things coming out of there. I'm curious. We have a lot of new agents as well as up and coming professionals in the commercial real estate space who listen to Kyle's podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll listen to this one as well. I expect they will. I'm curious, like you've talked to a lot of brokers, you've had your own experience. What's some of the best advice you feel like you've heard from some of these guys? Or are there a couple common themes that you hear of like, hey, if I go back in time and restart a brokerage, or I could give this advice after talking to so many successful people, here are some things that I would share with somebody who's getting started or somebody that's in the business.
I think the biggest thing for a lot of people is you need to understand, and I think actually Kyle said this. He went through or he might have posted something one time and it's talking about work-life balance.
Yeah.
And how you load up your work life in the front end and then you taper off in the back end, and that's the balance. It's not balance every day starting at 23 years old, It's I think that's a big part of it, is know when you sign up for this, like if you what do you want to do? Like first you need to know what you want to do, right? Do you want to make $1 million? Do you want to make $2 million a year? Okay, you're gonna have to work 80 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, now here's what you do, And so I think the biggest advice I think I've seen people give me is like, hey, you got to do those things up front. You've got to, and you just got to be really consistent. Like you have to be consistent. It's with anything like this podcast, like, you don't know this, but you've signed up for something now,
Yeah.
and you got to be consistent with it, because when you're like, oh, I didn't get an episode out this week.
Yeah.
It just goes down. It's the same thing with cold calling, right? Oh, I got busy transactions, didn't make prospecting calls this week. Oh, I didn't do, you can always find an excuse not to prospect.
Yeah.
Which that's a death sentence in this business. And so I think it's having a very structured plan and just being extremely consistent with it and disciplined.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's something that, I started in the brokerage business with Kyle from the very beginning and always heard his mentality. And he told me in the interview, and I tell this to other people, get in the office at 5:30, 5:45 a.m. You're going to make this many calls a day. You're going to present this many proposals a week. You're going to add this much as far as sales comparables. You're going to study flashcards. You're going to know your specialty. And he mapped all that out for me. Yeah. And I think that's been such a big part of really just the culture that's at Matthews and why we've been able to grow at the scale we have been. I will say this is that when I came to Dallas, I was like, you know what? There's nobody on the planet. There's no other brokers. There's no other brokers out there that work like we work. And it was interesting to see. I was like, you know what? There's some brokers out here that actually work pretty hard. I mean, there's some guys that there's some culture out here in the Dallas market, especially in the industrial space, of other agents who are getting early and staying late and making the cold calls and getting out there. I think it was almost exciting to see. Is like, wow, that amplifies us here at Matthews, but we need to take that next step. We need to work that much harder. We need to make sure, because these guys are working. They're pushing just as hard as we are in some ways. And so it's like, we need to take that next step as well. And I think that it was almost exciting to see that's because there are some markets that we've entered into and it was like, whoa, who are these Matthews guys and what are they doing and how are they doing this and what does it look like? And there are some parts of local presence here and some product types where we have taken people by storm and they're like, well, hang on a second, how are these guys grabbing so much market share in the listings? And I do think that the industrial space here is one in the world is like, oh no, these guys are working. All these guys and gals they're working hard.
I don't really know for other asset classes, but I would say for DFW industrial, this is the NFL.
Yeah.
Like I bought in other markets and I've seen how brokers work there. And I'm like, we would come here and eviscerate you. Like it would be, your head would be spinning. I mean, I'll tell you what, I think that's what they're doing in Oklahoma City right now. Mm-hmm. Tucker, like the Mercer company, they've taken, Tucker worked Mercer Garland here forever. Yeah. But he's from Oklahoma City. So he's up there just installing the playbook. And it's just like, they're just taking so much market share up there. So it's something I love, like, to your point about all this, like, I'm an addict. Okay. Like I am a real estate addict.
Yeah.
I'm a junkie. Like me and my brother are just real estate junkies. I don't need to work, but God, I like knowing brokers that I can call at 7 a.m. and because I just want to talk about real estate. Yeah. I don't even know what I'm calling about. I'm just like, Weisman's like that. I called him at 7 a.m. this morning. I was like, hey.
You could call him at 5:30.
Oh, I know. He wouldn't care. He's like, no, I've been up since 3:30, And, but, there's a handful of brokers that I'll call them at 6:30, 7 a.m. And then there's other brokers I know I can't call them then because I know that, and then, you see that in their production, know, and maybe they don't want that in their life. But then there's the addicts like us, it's like, Narduzzi, my partner. Like, I mean, I have a meme of a guy that has a bunch of cocaine on the ground and it says real estate. I'll send it to him. You want to talk? You want to talk real estate? It's Saturday morning. I'm like, you want to talk some real estate? Like, that's what we're into, man. I'm just very passionate about it, man. It's fun putting a deal together. It's fun, when it all comes together and you meet some really cool people in this industry too, man. And you meet those like-minded people that want to grind like that. It's like game recognizes game, and you're like, yeah, man, let's work a deal together. Like, this is fun.
I love that part about real estate. I think that was one of the most exciting things when I first got my business going. I was like, I got to talk to successful people all day. I got to talk to people who own real estate or investing in real estate or other people in the business that are also like-minded who are driven as the way that they are. And so that's one of my favorite parts about this business as well. There's a lot of things that I love about this business, obviously. And I feel very lucky to be part of it on the brokerage side. So a few things I wanted to just get an idea from your perspective. Mm-hmm. We're in Dallas. I say this all the time. I'm very biased. I think it's the best market in the country. I actually think that stats actually prove that DFW is the best market in the country. So I think that I have some stats to prove it somewhere. Yeah. I'm sure I can chat GBT saying, hey, tell me why Dallas is the best market in the country. But I'm curious, what's your vision for Dallas? What do you, I mean, as somebody who from Irving, seen a lot of growth here, what do you see as some exciting things happening out here that you're like, hey, keep an eye out for this, or this is awesome, it's happening here? What are you most excited about?
I think Dallas is just a dynamic place. I think, for me, the traffic is getting a little unbearable. I mean, you lived in LA. I feel like this is turning.
I left LA because I would get on the 405 every single day at like 5:15 just to make it to my office by 5:40 so I can start making calls by 6 a.m. because I was calling the East Coast. So I was like, I got to get, and I realized when I was driving home at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, sitting in an hour and a half of traffic, I said, you know what? I don't know if this is me long term. So yeah.
No, I think Dallas is pretty resilient. It's what's crazy is, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, like Dallas is like a secondary market to people.
Yeah.
Like it was always interesting because like on the industrial rates, we were like, $350 a foot. And like people were paying $10 a foot in other markets.
Yeah.
And so they're always a new person to this market would come here and be like, God, it's so cheap here.
Yeah.
It's like, because no one cares about this place. But now with this whole Y'all Street coming here, I think that's really interesting. I think that's going to be really cool to see. Like, do we really get this stock exchange going off down here? Like what, you've got the Goldman coming in, you've got Deloitte coming in, all these people are coming down here. And I mean, it's deemed safe enough now, to be, or now it's the destination,
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really cool factor of it. What's very interesting too is up in my part of the world, up near Prosper and all that stuff. I mean, just the developments that are going is insane.
Crazy.
I drive by Universal Studios every day on the way home, just watching that go up. That's bizarre to me, but I think Dallas will always be a strong market, as I dive down into, the deeper parts of the industrial market. I think a lot of people are getting into industrial, so I feel like it could be getting a little overheated right now, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen that too. And then I was wrong and people bought stuff at numbers. I was like, you're crazy. And then they sold it for numbers. I was like, that next person's crazier. I don't know. So
it is crazy because you're like that will never make sense. And it's like, well, people are still moving here like crazy. And there's always companies where there's like, well, our value is going to continue to rise at the rate they have been. And I guess time will tell, right?
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
So,
well, Jeremy, really appreciate you coming out and hopping on the podcast here.
Absolutely.
And great getting to know you a little bit. Really appreciate you sitting down and obviously taking part in this. And so thanks for coming by.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.